IVM.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into A Show About Crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Hey everyone, welcome to Shunya 150. So it's finally here. We've been talking about this for ages, Amit, but here we are doing episode 150 in our fourth year.
150. Yes. Well, I mean, like we skipped a lot of that. We've skipped a lot, but at the same time, we've done a lot also.
Exactly,
150 is a lot of episodes.
Isn't it? Like, it's a serious amount of episodes, especially when you think we've released almost every week since 2017, except our big break in 2020.
Have we duplicated a guest? I don't think we've duplicated a single guest.
No, we haven't.
Right?
It's a nice milestone to start asking for new guests, old guests to come back and say it's a new chapter.
There you go. But no, I mean, like, I think we were talking at some point in the middle that maybe we'll kind of bring some back, but I don't think we ever wound up doing that. So yeah, no, 150
No, we didn't.
unique people have been spoken to on this show, which is really amazing.
Yeah. And I remember our 50th episode.
That was fun. We did the live, right?
We did it live. And then, of course, I think 100 we couldn't do live. And 100 was just regular. But yeah, 150 is back here. And I'm so happy about our guest today. I think we had a lot of fun talking to Amrish Rau, who's the CEO of Pine Labs. And of course, has done so many other things before that. I personally think he's one of those folks who's seen the entire wave of fintech from way before it was even called fintech. So
No, it was really good. It was really insightful. And it was also like, some of the ideas around like, how different people are attacking different parts of the tech space, right? Or the fintech space. I thought that was really interesting to kind of get his views on. So yeah, great conversation.
No, and I think Amrish is one of those great guests who've been, really candid with us, especially given that he's seen workings of various cycles over the years. So everyone, I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation to listen in on. And yeah, I think it's a great one to mark our 150th.
Yes, it is.
Here's to many, many more after this too, Amit.
I would hope so. I really do hope so.
Absolutely. All right. Let's take our break and come back and jump into our conversation with Amrish.
Did you know that AI can help you recommend your next favorite podcast? In almost any field, AI can be an extremely important tool in your arsenal, but it can often seem daunting to get into. Luckily, Intel's Digital Readiness Program is here to empower everyone with the skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets to use in an AI-fueled world. So you can be ready to develop AI for sports if you want to as well. As part of Intel's AI for Youth program, Intel's been working with the CBSE, Ministry of Education, and the Government of India to empower today's youth to build social impact solutions while demystifying what exactly AI is. How do you take advantage of this? Purchase an Intel Core-powered PC, and you get free access to 80 plus hours of immersive and hands-on training about AI. On completion of the program, along with the certificate, you get access to AI tool sets to try to put what you learned to good use. So don't wait. Log on to futurebanawonderful.intel.com. Future Banaw Wonderful by bringing home an Intel-powered PC.
Hey Amrish, welcome to the show. Welcome to Shunya One and our special episode of Shunya One 150.
Well, just tells me that you put me as 150th on the priority list. But hey, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you very much, Shiladitya. Finally, I'm here.
We're glad to have you here. If I may kind of interject, it's not that you were 150th on the list. It was more that, hey, we need to get Amrish for the 150th episode. That was our thinking. We need you for the milestone.
Dude, that's such a good thing to say. You make me feel so good.
It's also such a interesting lineup we've had so far obviously, I know I've thought of having you on this show. I'm sure you've seen a lot of your friends and people from the startup ecosystem who of course, have been on it already. So it was
Yeah.
natural. I always thought I will get a chance to have you as a guest. But also,
Fantastic.
the lineup to the 150th has been interesting because for some reason, we've just seen a flood of fintech lately. It's just a fun coincidence that maybe it's the flavor of the season. Well, when has it not been the flavor of the season? It's also good to, have you as someone who's if I may say so, fintech veteran on this show talking to us and hopefully, giving us some reality checks on what fintech can be or should
Sure.
be. So that's
Sure.
what we're
Sure.
hoping to do. But Amrish, for folks who are listening in and probably who don't know your story, I think it's a very interesting one. I'd love to, have you share a little bit of how you got to where you are today at Pine Labs, because I think the road there, the origin story is a lot more formative to where you are maybe.
So, Shiladitya, the way I look at it is that I actually am one of those dumb guys who knows only a few things in life. And one of them turned out to be digital payments. I was super lucky that in my first job, I got into ATMs and financial services. And those days, ATMs was the changing of the guard, right? Moving from people giving out cash coming out of machines. But that journey was really about financial services and technology being used in banks and financial institutions. Look, 20 plus years later, I'm doing the same damn thing. Good news is I love every day of what I do. I literally feel super excited to wake up, go to office, do something new, and there's never a dull day. And look, over a period of time, we have gone through various things, but one thing which has remained consistent every day has been better. So, I keep talking about it that when we go to sleep in the fintech space, we know for sure tomorrow is going to be better than today. And we know for sure
Wow.
today is better than yesterday. Very few industries are of that kind, and fintech has been in that space. When I started my career, just when Infosys, Wipro, TCS was just taking off. And here I was lucky to get into a multinational company, had a great job. But I always looked at the Infosys of the world and I said, that's the thing to do. That's the opportunity. Maybe that opportunity has just passed me. But when it came to financial services technology, fintech, I was very clear I'm not going to let that opportunity go. I used to be the CEO for First Data India. We acquired ICICI Bank's portfolio in 2009 for about $65 million. It was a big deal in those days. But by 2012, 2013, I was fairly certain that I've got to go on my own, build something which I would feel happy about. And that's when we started off with Citrus. Clearly, we ended the journey way too early, and we'll talk about it later. Nothing to do with the valuation or anything of that kind. But look, I was lucky that I've had friends with Sequoia. Sequoia has been our supporter from 2012 to even now. And just when I was finishing up, Sequoia tapped me and said, "Hey, look, we've got an asset which I think you'd be interested in." And I've loved my last 18 months. Absolutely loved my last 18 months.
Brilliant. And obviously the Citrus story, then the PayU story, then obviously now Pine Labs is what you just mentioned. There, I would say, you could club them together and like you said, you're doing the same thing you were doing maybe, 15, 20 years ago, but they're actually very different businesses with, I would say, incrementally larger sort of audiences, right? What made you sort of being on the inside, you also see a lot of trends, right? Fintech is the kind of, like you said, tomorrow is going to be a better day because you see this sort of future trend. You see, the opportunity ahead fairly early because you can see those green shoots. What, in each of these roles that you played, what was that sort of next thing you identified or you saw? If you can, reflect on some of that.
Yeah, look, as they say, no person goes into a river twice. And that's because the river changes, the person changes. So over the years, I've had similarly completely different experiences in my career. So, there was piece when I was in NCR, it was much more about helping banks, financial institutions build out delivery channels to address their consumers. But by 2005, when I took over as the CEO for First Data India, it was a completely different story. India was going through consumption, transactions were happening all across the country. It was a story about how do you take payments through the length and breadth of the country. When it came to my own startup, what we had a very simple vision, which is consumers are going to go online, consumers are going to go mobile first, and consumers are going to look for a differentiated checkout experience. How can you build for that? Actually, payment gateway obviously was central to what we were doing, but how you control the checkout and what you deliver at the point of purchase was really the most fascinating thing for us in Citrus. People don't talk about it enough, but in Citrus, we also built Lazy Pay. And when you think of Lazy Pay as a
Oh,
product, it's really an extension of what happens on the payments journey. So it's not necessarily a credit product, it's an extension of the payments journey. And that's what we built in Citrus before Payu took over. Payu was a completely different world. Jiten and I, we felt a tremendous pressure to deliver a good asset. Look, today people talk about Payu. Payu has become a very successful business for Naspers. But I tell you one thing, acquisitions don't work very well. And we had this tremendous pressure where we felt that there's our responsibility to ensure that there's a safe acquisition. So it was about culture, culture combination, creating something which can be a platform for bigger growth. We made 3, 4
hmm.
investments. Now, as you know, PayU has gone ahead and acquired a couple of more companies. Feel super proud of what got achieved in those 7, 8 years time. Now, when it comes to Pine Labs, I think I'm ready to go flying. I think I'm ready to go flying. I have like massive ambitions, massive goals in front of me. Let's see how the next few years, transpire.
So, Amrish, if I could ask, can you maybe tell us a little bit about like how? So, everybody's heard of Pine Labs. I think everybody who's heard who's listening to this show right now has heard of Pine Labs, right? But I think that there is a gap in terms of understanding what Pine Labs does exactly, because it's the credit card terminal, but it's also the point of sale thing at like other places, and it's also like some sort of a checkout thing on online. And so, just like, what's the breadth? What's the kind of like how do you kind of look at the business broadly?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So I'll break it up into two parts. One is what do we do, and the second piece is where are we headed. So what we do is, and this is not well understood by people, we are a cloud tech company, and let me explain to you. So the way
Hmm.
the traditional POS environments work anywhere around the world is you have one device, and on one device, one bank or a financial institution is integrated onto it. So let's say it's an acquiring kind of a business. There's only an ICICI or a CIMB or a HDFC Bank on that terminal. What we at Pine Labs did was we completely dumbed down the terminal, took all the intelligence in the cloud infrastructure. What that allows us to do is allows us to run many different functionality on one single device. So the way we look at it is we look at everything as a device. So we've got our coding language, and all that Pine coding language does is it takes control of a device and allows as many various payment types to run on that one device. It could be loyalty, rewards, payments, redemptions, credit card, debit card, QR. The list can go on very long. It could have a Zomato app, it could have a Swiggy app, it could have a Udan app. We can do hundreds of things on one device. What people don't understand is that is the power of Pine Labs, wherein we allow for consolidation of services at the point of checkout. And that's the reason why an Apple keeps us or a Starbucks keeps us and nobody comes into our accounts, purely because of the technology that we build. Interestingly, less than 3% of my revenues actually comes on MDR and classic payment based fees.
Oh,
Majority of our revenues is related to software services, software subscription. And obviously people don't see it because they don't understand the business. So that's who we are, and that's what we were doing extremely well. Over the last 5 years, what has happened is we started to realize that our power is not just controlling the checkout, but our power is controlling the merchant and controlling the transaction. And slowly and steadily, we started to build more services. So we started to build this whole BNPL, and I'll talk about BNPL later, but we started to create a program which says I can run 30 different credit issuers with their 0% installment payment program at the point of checkout with our device out there. We can also run prepaid stored value cards for our merchants, corporates through the relationships that I have with them. But the way we see this is, and this is a very big change which I'm trying to drive, is the way we look at it is this is entry into the merchant network. See, the way Stripe thinks about it is Stripe used to think of themselves as a payment gateway company. Now they see themselves as a tech provider to an online merchant. The way I see this is every small merchant is going to look for their tech friend when it comes to efficiency improvement in the storefront, checkout behavior in the storefront, building out capabilities to bring more consumers back to the store, loyalty, rewards, credit. So we need to expand from being a payments company to being a merchant commerce company, becoming a merchant financial services company. And then at some point of time, we need to become a consumer engagement company, all of this being delivered through the merchant. We have where we came from and we continue to grow in that area. And then we want to go into these other areas. One thing which I missed is, and then online is going to be a very important one. I keep joking about this, but I'm kind of serious about it. If I don't build an online payment stack in Pine Labs, my mom is going to be extremely unhappy with me. So I'm going to do it.
It's like you had one job. That's what you do everywhere you go.
Job. Exactly. You idiot. And you sold the company, you idiot. So, okay, I'm going to do this now.
I mean, that's actually a lot. And that actually is a good, explanation of why obviously the company is where it is today in terms of, its position in the market and, value and everything. And that's exactly what Amit was saying, right? As a consumer, we don't usually even interface with the company apart from the logo on the machine, right?
Right.
As much as I remember. In the early days, I mean, this is maybe a little reference back to why, or rather how the success of Pine Labs actually came about, right? What do you think was the, inflection point for you guys to be the successful platform player versus anyone else who could have done it, or maybe is still trying to? But what were those milestones which you might look back at and say that this this allowed you to sort of jump from that MDR story where everyone fights for like 0.5%, becoming the essentially your B2B SaaS in the real world?
This is an interesting story, right? I think the great thing about Pine Labs in the earlier 5-6 years was I don't think so there was a plan. And I think that worked really well for Pine Labs. So all which we did was we just kept following our customer, our merchant, and what my merchant wants to deliver. And we just simply kept following that. Okay, this is what you want, we'll build it. This is where you want to build it. By the way, we've also built so and so. Do you really want to see if you want to use it? And that helped us get deeply integrated into the merchant's environment. Now, today is the opportunity for us to do more with those integrations and those relationships for us. Look, we are happy that the market doesn't really understand how deep our stack is and what we do, and we're perfectly fine with it. See, one of the things what you don't realize is over the years there have been many POS companies which have come and fallen by the wayside. And the only reason that has happened is because payments and POS is considered to be as just another thing to do. It's not that. It's extremely complex. And the more complex we have made it, the stronger is our moat in our business. See, for others, what it is one of those 7, 8, 10 different revenue lines. And hence you can't go deep into it. So invariably what you find is if the merchant wants to use credit card, debit card acceptance, you're right. There can be multiple options. As soon as the merchant turns around and says, I want to do more at the checkout, Pine Labs becomes the automatic choice.
So that's where identifying that there are merchants, and by the way, you're talking about real world brick and mortar merchants, unlike the digital merchants you probably were dealing with before this. So
it's changing fast. It's changing fast and it's changing rapidly for us, right? So what has happened is the line between offline payments and online payments has become has blurred over the last, I would say, 2 years, 2.5 years time. And we see it the same way. Right now, for example, one of the things that we are seeing an unbelievable amount of growth is in the pure space of digital QR. Like, everybody accepted that QR and sticking of QRs is the way to go. But today, QRs are getting digital. I can tell you in 3 years' time, everything will be into digital QRs. When the transaction goes to digital QR, what's the merchant going to require? He's going to require a device. Who's the best provider of the device led environment? It's Pine Labs. So sometimes the fact that we don't chase markets is a good thing. We never chase the QR sticker based business. Look, if things go the way it's going in 2 years time, 3 years time, the market will come to us. The sticker based QR, then people are talking about sound boxes. I guarantee you people are now going to talk about digital QRs. Look, I haven't been to the country in 18 months, but the look on Amit's face tells me that he thinks that he's getting to see a lot more digital QRs than just stickers on the wall.
It was honestly, it was kind of like I was just like, what the hell's going on here, right? I was at the airport and I had to buy something. I was at one of the things, right? And I think it was a Pinelands terminal, but basically they were asking, how do you want to pay? And I said, will you take Google Pay? I assumed they would give me a piece of paper and I'll span this. Instead, they did it on the thing, on the machine itself, turned it around, told me to scan it. Amount filled in already from minute one. So I didn't have to fill in the
That's
amount.
correct.
That was the thing that I was so impressed with, right?
Yeah.
That
I
the
think that
amount
must be the Starbucks store. That must be the Starbucks store.
It might be Starbucks. It might have been Starbucks. I
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah.
maybe it was Starbucks or maybe it was one of the Bangalore shops where I picked up a Diet Coke. It was one of the two. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the two. But it was. We use the word magical in tech all the time, but it was amazing that I don't have to fill in
It
the amount
saves you
because I'm
that much
always
time and just
yeah.
thought, right? It just saves you the fact that you don't
I
have to
agree.
think about how much to pay. It's the same as swiping the card or tapping the card.
No, I was just going to say this happened to me once, right? Where I put in the QR code at the Bandra Sealy, the Wally Bandra Sea link, right? And I did the QR code picture. I had to put in 70. I put in 700 by mistake, and I paid it.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that money never came back. I mean, there was a process to get it back, but I mean, it never came back, right?
That's a
So
great
I
point.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So this was to me, I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. So, I'm of the opinion that over the last 3 years, the number of devices at a checkout location has actually doubled. So what people constantly think, oh, you know what, POSs are going to go out. Sure, POSs are going to go out, but devices at the checkout is actually going to increase. That's, our mind can't accept that very easily. But devices are increasing at the checkout point.
I actually had a question on that other aspect of the business also. Like I've myself dealt with very early on trying to do hardware plus software plays, right? And then eventually realized that it's hard to do both really really well. And then most of the world obviously chose the easier path relatively and said let's just write code. But you guys are definitely doing both, and you're innovating on both fronts at the same time. How is that, and how hard, or is that a conscious effort? Do you think it's an important part of your success?
I'm actually quite happy when people end up thinking that we also do hardware, but we've got nothing to do with that hardware. We take that hardware commodity from a Chinese company. It just has a unique look to it, which we've put it onto our device and we take the device out in the market. But our magic is entirely on the software stack and the rules that we have brought up in the cloud world. Let me give you one example, right? So just the other day, Affirm announced that, hey, look, now I'm going to give an option for people to convert their installment payment transactions, not in 3, but to 6, 9, 12, and calculate an interest rate. We developed this tech in 2015. And when I spoke to my product managers actually said, no, what are these guys talking about? If we want, we can convert this into days. So you could break this up into 3 months and 12 days, and we can still do this program, right? Just to give you an example of now, what people don't think about is that BNPL is also about giving the power to the consumer, and consumer has various requirements when it comes to their consumption. We need to build a tech stack which can deliver to that. And that's what we've really done over a period of time.
You've mentioned BNPL twice, and I definitely know that's a very interesting topic. But before we get into the acronym, which is definitely the hottest acronym in fintech now, I'm going to take a quick break and come back and talk some more.
So, Amit, Intel's impressing me yet again.
You heard about Intel vPro, huh?
Yeah, I did. Exactly. I mean, imagine you're a security and IT manager. There's nothing like Intel vPro out there. It basically helps you protect your entire organization's computers from like cyber attacks and basically keep them functioning all the time.
I know exactly what you mean, right? I mean, like cybersecurity is like a major deal these days, right? I know that both at work and at home, I'm really taking a lot more care about these things than I used to.
Exactly. And the way I see it, right? I mean, Intel has obviously developed this a lot. They have something called a threat detection technology. They have something called a hardware shield. It's basically everything that you need to protect your entire organization from stuff like ransomware, crypto mining, all of these latest sort of threats that are out there.
And you know what's really cool? It's not just that, right? They also have this below the OS security, which is basically used for hardware and firmware changes to identify when stuff happens over there or when there is like, malfeasance happening on your application or data protection stuff. This really helps with memory corruption, all that kind of stuff, right? So they're just basically kind of helping to really reduce the number of attack surfaces an organization has.
That's what a business needs, right? I mean, pretty much a business wants that, okay, I have one platform and I get all my checkboxes around, all these various small things that I need to protect it. So it's good to see that Intel is developing a platform that's built for businesses.
Yeah, and it really is, right? I mean, like even the cloud-based manageability of all these services, right? So basically everything can be done remotely, whether it's managing or repairing these systems. You can just basically nobody has to go anywhere, especially in these times. I think that really does help.
Oh yeah. I mean, during work from home, it's basically exactly what you need. It's a godsend sort of technology.
Amen to that. And so remember, everybody, just go check out Intel vPro and Intel's other amazing products at intel.in/IT heroes. Remember, Intel vPro, it's built for business.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Amrish has promised to explain exactly what BNPL is and why it's the coolest thing in fintech. But Amit, I think you have a question first.
Well, yeah, no, so I actually kind of wanted to, before we got into like the specifics, I thought I'd get like a broader idea from you, right? So you mentioned every day is better in fintech, right? Every day you're getting more and more successful. What do you think are like, beyond, besides like some of the obvious kind of like, growing economy and stuff like that, what do you think are some of the biggest underlying reasons for fintech in the country growing the way it is?
I mean, there are many points, right? And I know I can go on for a day, but I'll try and summarize this, right? So one, obviously what is happening is the government of India is trying to make this massive push towards digitization, both at the taxation level, filing, as well as digital payments. So that's an obvious one, right? Second, COVID has been extremely bad for the country. But when it comes to digital payments, obviously what you're getting to see is consumers are using a lot more of digital payments. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel extremely uncomfortable to touch cash at this point of time. And hence digital payments is obviously growing. So that's the part around COVID. But then the third part out of it is, look, I come from Bombay and I have seen the classic Kirana store owner in Bombay where the guy doesn't want to digitize for various requirements. But for the first time, what that merchant is turning around and saying that, look, my consumers are asking for digital payments. If I don't try and come up with technologies to compete with an Amazon and a Flipkart, my lunch is going to get taken away. So let me do some levels of digitization. Guess what is their first product? Digital payments. And for us, that's the starting point, right? So we're getting to see a wave of merchants coming up and signing. In fact, from the pre-pandemic days to today, our throughput, and I'm not talking about volume throughput, but our deployments at the checkout counters has gone 3x from where it was pre-pandemic. So I think there is a greater adoption at the merchant level. So obviously government is doing its job, consumers are asking for questions, and then there is merchants out there. Then the fourth one, which is the biggest one when it comes to fintech, is impatience. We are growing extremely impatient, right? And the way we are looking at every technology, we are saying, when we look at a new technology, our mind is saying, how do you disrupt this? And then when that technology makes the smallest of error, we are not ready to give them any leeway. So, if you look at what banks get as feedback on the net or on Twitter, I think people are being harsh, right? We are not that impatient in many, many other scenarios. But when it comes to banks, we as consumers are saying, sorry, I've run out of patience. I want you to change,
Yeah.
or I'm going to change you. And that's happening when it comes to insurance procurement. It's happening when it comes to banking. Obviously, remittances got disrupted even earlier. So I think this whole piece around impatience has become a big thing. 2 years back, and when Jiten and I were like kind of winding up from our days at Naspers, Jiten said, I want to go into the consumer side of it. And I said, look, I want to go into hardcore payment infrastructure growth for India. And hence, I would rather think about a B2B. Jiten was telling me, he's saying, I want to do a neobank. And I said, Teko lagta hai ki ye chalega? Why will this work? Fast forward today, and
Yeah.
I'm a significant shareholder there. Fast forward today, I'm the one who's saying, dude, stop thinking, just accelerate, just accelerate. The
Yeah.
neo banking day has arrived. And this is a difference in me in 2 years' time because I've gone impatient. I want change faster than ever.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Jupiter. I'm a fan. I've been using it for like most of my normal day-to-day stuff off late.
That's
I
great.
enjoy.
That's
I think
great.
it works well. Yeah.
I'm locked out, but well, Jitendra knows that. So
Yeah.
because of other
Yeah.
fintech infrastructure
Yeah.
problems in the
Ep-
country.
yeah. Epify has taken you over before him. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, you
But
wouldn't have walked up to a federal bank branch to go and open up an account, I would
No, I
guess.
would not have. It was
no,
all about
no.
just getting this done in this quicker way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't do
sure.
that. I trust me, I didn't open a federal bank account. I just happened to download one app earlier. That's my problem.
Yeah, yeah,
I, funnily enough, I literally thought, you know what? Oh, all the neobanks have finally launched and all the cards. And obviously, lockdown, you have so much time clearly. I said, I'm going to
yeah.
sign up in all of them. And then I realized the
Oh, wow.
problem.
Oh,
So
it's because they're all
I walked
based on
right in.
Federal Bank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's
some
right.
of them are.
So,
And that's why
Okay. All right.
the,
Okay.
the
All
so
right.
that's where the whole thing. But hey, we will solve this too, right? And that this is the
yeah,
infrastructure layer that we're talking about. And you mentioned a few points, Amrish. The government is obviously doing what it is doing. As a country, I think everyone who's spoken to us here also has said that we are like way ahead when it comes to
yeah.
both infrastructure, whether it's APIs, whether it's government support. We are way ahead than most of the world when it comes to payments and finance as a platform. Isn't it like even more competitive for trying to solve the problems that you guys are solving? I mean, making things easier for even a Pine Labs to get disrupted, or if possibly. So, what's your outlook on that?
Look, I think there are two parts to it, right? One, I'm a super paranoid guy. I'm like as paranoid as you can get, and I'm like 24/7 looking for what could go differently for us in the business. So, yeah, absolutely, we could get disrupted. Absolutely, we're going to have a competition that is, we're going to have to fight them. But hey, look, we're going to fight them. There is no way that competition is going to find it easy to come into our space ever. But then there's a second part to it. In the world's fastest growing economy, in the world's fastest growing internet market, in the world's fastest payments company, you have a competition of three. Means I'm ready to take that anytime. Indian market is so big. In each of the sectors, there could be 10 different players, and each one of them can have a super successful model. I guess the problem there is if all 10 wants to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, of course there's a problem. But in each of the niches, people can build very, very successful businesses. Like, Cred is a great example, right? Cred, in a way, what is it doing is building consumer trust, building consumer engagement, building consumer financial services, but they've just positioned themselves in a slightly different sector than everybody else. And boom, business is taking off.
Yeah.
I think the even when it comes like we have GPay, PhonePe, Paytm when it comes to everyday payment transaction, and then you have a
Yeah.
banks with various apps. I want to say it here. I think there can be 10 more apps. I think there can be 10 more apps for everyday payments. But each one of them will have to have its own tweak, its own functionality, MVP.
Right.
But I think there can be 10 more apps when it comes to consumer payments in India, easily.
Wow. So I mean, and that again, that's a comment on obviously even the the depth of the market, and I would say
That's correct.
people's appetite for doing new things and interesting things, but or trying stuff out for that matter. In fact, the fact that there is a GPay and a PhonePe and a Paytm itself shows that there are takers for each of them for whatever individual reasons that they may have. Coming back to the B2B side, right?
Sorry, Shiladitya, one point I wanted to make, when you guys started off and you said, fintech is the flavor of the season. Everybody seems to be talking fintech. I wanted to point out something very interesting and, it's just been cooking in my head. So the way this works is if you're into real estate, you need to give loans. Hence, you go to a bank. If you're into cars, you need to create consumption. Hence, you need to have auto loans out there. If you're into retailing, you would love to have a credit card which is supporting you because that's what transaction, and hence you go to the bank. I have a feeling that there's going to be a world where each of these institutions are just going to have the fintech flavor within their companies. So you could be a car manufacturing company and you'll have a fintech within your organization. You could be a retailer and you have a fintech out there. And then there will come a point of time that why should everybody just go to one common place like a bank if I can satisfy my fintech needs? So when you look at a marketer or when you look at what a story as a M2P is talking in the market, what they're saying is every company, if it wants to have any fintech-like services, don't go to a bank to develop it for you. We'll develop it. We'll give it to you off the shelf. You're good to go. And then suddenly a retailer will also become a fintech. So I think there is a true components of the fintech world which is being taken out and going and getting integrated with different businesses in our everyday life.
And integrated natively, like without any friction.
That's correct. That's the word.
Seamless.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Natively integrated into a completely random industry.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that basically fintech is a underlying piece of all industries rather than being an industry in and of itself.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah,
fintech is a feature.
The future is there. I'm saying future is there, right? I think future is there.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I buy that. I buy that for sure. Yeah.
The latest, this is a very tangential comment, but it's also still some level of fintech. I mean, even the fact that we are also talking decentralization with crypto and so on and so forth, right?
That's correct.
That itself is becoming a theme which says that everything should be embedded with some sort of tokenization, some sort of transaction chain, so that things just become inherently, traceable or whatever. For the good or for the bad. So that's a whole other, I mean, to be honest, I can't wrap my head around it still, but that's one of the paradigms we are facing where blockchain is in everything, right? So why fintech forms an inherent part of that?
Absolutely.
So where do you see Pine Labs doing, having anything in the crypto, like is crypto a part of your future thoughts in just general? Again, I mean, like as somebody who is powering this many merchants, right? Where do you see crypto in just generally this? And I know India has law issues and stuff like that. So as much as you're comfortable talking about.
Look, as you guys are saying that y'all are really excited to have me on this show, I'm also very excited with the crypto opportunity. It is priority number 150 right now.
Okay.
Ah, nice. You can read that. You can interpret from that whatever that means. So
I don't know if that shaded us or shaded crypto or shaded anybody.
Sorry, guys. I'm just having a fun afternoon. Okay?
No, of course.
That's what we were hoping for. So and thank you for that. So Amrish, you've obviously dabbled in the various flavors and. Priority 150 or not, you also remember you have to still build a payment gateway, so that has to be there too. So given the current market position that Pine Labs enjoys, obviously there's so much you can build on, and half the things we probably will not even hear about unless you choose to do a podcast of your own and talk about your various features maybe. So where is now, let's say, we still haven't touched upon what BNPL really is. Although everyone's probably heard about it. I think you already explained that answer in a lot of ways where it's going to be some sort of embedded commerce. All of these things are going to be embedded features of businesses. Is that what a company like Pine Labs definitely has a a tagline by now. What is that North Star tagline, vision, mission statement? Want to call yourselves next?
You know, look, I have to tell you this. The pandemic has not been kind to me, from meeting my friends and colleagues and all of that, right? So we haven't had the chance to do this vision, mission statement creation. But what I can tell you very safely is that while payments is the underlying layer, how do you do merchant commerce? How do you do merchant financial services? And how do you get to the merchant's consumer is something which is very important to me. So that's on one side. Second is let's come to fintech. And in the fintech space, what are the two things which I find super fascinating? And you actually talked about it. One is RTP, which is real time payments, right? What happens in terms of money movements on the backs of a UPI? UPI at the end of the day is a real time payments infrastructure. Real time payments infrastructure in our mind is only about me paying you, but real time infrastructure can impact hundreds of various everyday business practices. And I think that's going to open up many, many opportunities. That's one. Second is this whole concept around embedded finance. You don't even know that you're taking finance, like lazy pay, right? When was lazy pay a payments product? To when was lazy pay a credit product? You'll never be able to,
Yeah,
differentiate it because
a
all
checkout
just
option.
completed and completely embedded, right? I think that's an area which completely fascinates me. So I think we'll think about the merchant ecosystem and then we'll think about these two other areas a lot more deep as we go forward.
Since you're talking to us on our 150th, what is your immediate next thing we can aim to see as a consumer or experience as a consumer because of what Pine Labs is innovating? Something, if you can give us a sneak peek on something we may or may not even know is happening, but happening because of you guys.
I think Amit talked about it in terms of digital QR. That's something which is very exciting for us. We're doing a lot of work with merchants when it comes to consumers being brought back to the store. I've already talked about it a few times, but we are right now beta testing our product called Fave, and Fave is actually going to go and sit in the consumer's pocket. I mean, you can download Fave as we speak, FAVE. What Fave does is
It
allows
was
you to
in
save on
Southeast
every.
Asia, right?
That's
It's a
correct. So we
company
already
started
brought
in
it to
Southeast Asia.
India. Yeah, we already brought it. But right now, the value proposition is not yet in place. The value proposition is to be able to save on every transaction on the backs of a QR-based, UPI-based transaction. Now, right now, we've got the UPI story out of the way. Then comes the merchant angle to it. Once we put it together, we are ready to talk a lot more of it. So I think that's something which you'll get to see pretty soon. And then, as I told you, I'm going to keep my mom happy. So I'm fairly sure online is coming.
Thanks for that sneak peek. And Fave is actually a very interesting product. I saw it was initially Malaysia, if I'm not wrong. And
Correct. Malaysia.
we had a chance to work with them. Yeah, back then as well. So yeah,
nice.
It's very interesting that it's coming to India, and I'm sure it'll do very interesting things with people. Amrish, as a closing note, what is you're already a, let's say, veterans of the industry in India, or even though you're based out of Singapore, what is your most optimistic reason for continuing to bet on India and maybe focus on this zone versus, like you said, the other big markets out there where people, to be very honest, I think if you look at the American European markets, they're archaic in contrast to what we do
That's
here. You guys could just go there and just sort of change the game, but what makes you still bullish on India, or if that is the fact?
Yeah, 2 points, right? One point is, and you're absolutely right. I think there are great external markets for us to go after and win. We are doing very, very well with our prepaid issuing stack. We won a deal with a very, very large global retailer in an international market. We partnered with Amadeus to deliver Amadeus prepaid cards. See, one of the things what people don't understand about Pine Labs is POS, terminal-based revenues, is less than 50% of the entire revenue streams in the company. We have large businesses which people wouldn't even know of. So one of the examples is our prepaid issuing stack in the global markets doing extremely well. We've got many great clients out there. But can we take our payment stack and go global? I think we can. But the India opportunity is exploding at a rate which you and I can't even imagine. And hence, to be fair, I'll say we are still stuck in India at this point of time. So I would love to go global. So that's point one. The second point to it is, I think the India opportunity is unbelievable. Bezos talks about day zero. I think it's like you're gone for an IPL game and you're sitting in the stands. The bowler is marking his run up. I think we are at that stage. The crowd is just building up. The ball is going to be bowled now. That day will happen 3 years from today. I think what's going to happen in terms of digitizing of the consumer, digitizing of the merchant, disruption of the Indian banks and financial institutions, broking houses, insurance companies, credit companies, it's happening right in front of our eyes. And I feel the India opportunity is just massive. I'll tell you something. I'm a prolific angel investor. Out of all my angel investment which I've done, and I think between Shweta and I, we must have done about 100 angel investments. Three have gone wrong. Three have gone wrong. 97
Wow.
are still continuing. 97 are still continuing to go forward. It's not because we are smart. It's because the India opportunity is just massive, and there are business opportunity which is just coming to everybody. It's like crazy what we are getting to see in terms of a investment opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to mention that well, people who are listening to this obviously know that Amrish is very very active in the angel investing space. So yes, as a follow up to, since you mentioned it yourself, you clearly have the Midas touch when it comes to writing checks.
It's
you know,
India. That's what I'm trying to say. It's India, which is like the all which you need to know is that you are going into a sector where there is an opportunity. As long as you're in, and that's been good for me, right? You wouldn't generally see me investing into a baby clothing startup because I don't have the brain power. I can't. Shweta does, by the way. My wife Shweta, she does, but I don't have the brain power to do that very well. But if you're going after sectors that you understand very well, then I think the outcomes are coming out well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a question at all. I think the number of fintechs we interview itself is a correlation to the fact that there are so many out there, new and old, and very very innovative companies out there. But of course, Amrish, since you're here with us, shout out to folks and founders and operators in the space. How if you want, give them any words of advice, and of course, if they want to reach you, what's the best place to reach out to you? Maybe call out your Twitter handle or anywhere else
Yeah,
they want to come to talk.
absolutely. I'm one of those people that I have time for everything and everybody. What I don't have time for is like a random coffee or a deep conversation at 12 o'clock in the night about something. I'm like, ask me a question, you'll get an answer always. It's not that like I literally have time to answer to everybody as long as the question is very pointed. I don't have any advice for anybody. So it's like if there's a question, I think if I know it, I'll provide an answer instantly.
Great. Also, I'll just remind everybody, please, quickly, a review or a rating wherever you're listening to us. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever that may be, ratings help us. And also, please do tell somebody about what you enjoyed listening to in this conversation we just had with Amrish. I think we had a lot of really good insights.
I'm going to add one thing.
Yes.
I'm going to add one thing. Look, guys, what you guys are doing is really special. 150 episode is not easy, man. I really, really, really thank you for all that you do. Just spreading the news about what's happening in India, what's happening in the Indian economy, what's happening in the Indian founder network is so important. And you guys have played a very important role. I know sometimes to what Shiladitya was saying that you might not get the views, but hey, look, power on. Thank you very much for all you do, man.
No.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Yeah,
it's purely well. To be honest, it's absolutely our personal passions for sure,
exactly.
And of course, the great team able to help us out because of what Amit has built. So yeah, I mean, it started out of a genuine need replacement for coffee and beer catch-ups. By the way, Amrish,
Great
I said
point. Great point.
we end up talking about stuff anyway. When I meet another friend or founder, I said, you know what, let's put a mic in between and do the same chat.
Yeah.
And that's
Fantastic.
exactly what this is.
And
So,
I decided to sit
thank
on
you.
the wall and listen.
Yeah. But thank you so much for that note, Amrish, and thank you so much for the awesome conversation we had. You won't realize, but we've definitely crossed almost the 45-minute mark, which you thought you may not have had content for, but we've got a lot of juicy stuff here. And of course, I'm sure people who are listening in will want to give us some feedback. So reach out to us on Twitter. We'll be posting about this. And yes, say hi to Amrish wherever he is reachable as well. Especially if you're building a fintech company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amrish. Take care.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav speaks to Rafiq Ahmed Shah. He's 73 years old and a fourth-generation artist who is fighting to keep the vanishing art of Kashmiri carpet weaving alive. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav helps us get acquainted with Dharamshala, the Dalai Lama's abode, along with its twin, McLeodganj. On The Habit Coach, Ashton explains the importance of your starting point and how your goals and directions make an impact. On Marathi Kirtitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh introduce us to the different languages spoken in India, their origin, and their evolution. And on The Wire Talk, Siddharth speaks to Dilip Menon, a historian of modern India. They discuss the worrisome practice of lynchings and rewriting the past in India. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Inter. We appreciate the support.
Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood,
Get accustomed to womanhood.
enjoy the experience of sisterhood,
Might get to wifehood
or not, choose motherhood,
or not. You'll learn to define your personhood.
earn a livelihood,
Change the neighborhood.
and get rid of the falsehood that life post-academia is easy.
So join me, Natasha,
And me, Ayushi,
on a journey from station starting point.
to station, what now?
Next station, Pudin station, and hopefully, Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.